Who else? Good morning, Justin. Good morning, Maki. Can you guys give me a thumbs up on the sound? Good morning, KT. Okay, thank you, Elias. Y'all see I'm squinting. Good morning, Elias. All right, guys, this is going to be a good one. Go ahead and share it out. Dre will be joining us in a moment. I thought this was a really good topic. This is Dre's topic. So as we wait for Dre, I did want to bring up, before we get into our main topic, the conversation on, I don't know if you guys remember. So it was the reptiles, and no, it was a two-piece in a podcast after the reptiles and cocktails that we did the cancer walk. And that Monday we covered the whole invasive species type topic. I know Maki and Elias was, very involved in the chat that day. So they will remember that clearly. Good morning, Rob. So with that being said, this past week, we saw that in Florida, I think she was 85-year-old woman was walking alongside the waters in Florida, and a alligator. If you look at the video, you can see that the alligator initially was pursuing the dog. However, in the midst of that, he also grabbed in the woman, right? Which is, for me, frequent traveler, for me, a person who visits Florida, help me, the people from Florida, help me understand how people are so comfortable to walk along the water edge. Because I'm going to give you an example. Even when we would go to Sanibel and Captive Island on the resort, which is like a very modern resort, there were waters that were built around the resort. And those waters built around the resorts had signs that said, do not walk along the water edge. And some of them would even say alligators mating, depending on what season we were in or whatever. But those signs was literally as you were walking from your condo to your breakfast or whatever, they're all around. So for me, as a visitor, I'm never walking on the edge. Even if you can remember a few years ago, the young boy at Disney was pulled into the water. These are common water edges, right? Good morning, Holly. Welcome, sweetie. The beautiful Holly is in the chat. So let's see who else came in. Good morning, Esther. Hey, girl. Hey. Thank you for being here this morning. I don't walk along the waters. Most people who visit just, we think alligators are everywhere, so we just don't walk along the waters. But for people who live in Florida, it seems to be a common practice to walk along the waterside, specifically walking dogs and things like that. So it's unfortunate that, she lost her life in the process. But to my point is that we often talk about invasive species. So we talk about the Burmese pythons, we talk about the reticulated pythons, we talk about the tegus and all of that in Florida. And I'm not saying that alligators should be restricted or killed in the wild, because I don't think the Burmese pythons or the reticulated pythons should be either, right? But it boggles my mind how we have all these conversations about those snakes being invasive to the ecosystem. And what part do we play in the ecosystem? I think that taking human life is much worse than eating a plant or, eating some bugs that saves a plant. I mean, it all works. I get the concern. Don't get me wrong. I get concerns, but I think that when things like that happen in Florida, I just try to understand why people such as FWC focus so much on sending people out to hunt and kill. And I know that they have processes in place to relocate alligators if necessary. But for a alligator or an animal to come up out the water and just take a grown person in and not let them back out, to me that's a greater concern. And it seems like we haven't learned anything from when the little boy was pulled into the waters. And many of people, there are more people being killed by alligators in Florida than we know. Like, I can recall being in, I think it was Jacksonville, and seeing a story about an alligator pulling someone in. I remember not wanting to go in the ambulance when I broke my ankle in Florida because I was afraid that it was so late at night that, who knows where I would end up and an alligator would show up. So my whole thing is that, and I love alligators. Everybody know that. Pet alligators that was born. We're going to talk about that today. Difference between wild caught and captive bred. That's one of the things. Those animals are conditioned differently. But I will say that maybe it's time to put up fences and things like that around those bodies of waters, because it's a lot. But I know it's so common to have those. I call them big puddles, but like lakes and ponds and stuff like that. I know it's so common, but that's very sad. And for her neighbor to have witnessed that, and then wait a minute, the newscaster, y'all, who said, "Hold up, well." Did you feel bad did you feel like you should have done something sooner? What in the world is two old ladies going to do with 11-foot alligators? No, she did what she's supposed to have done, called the authorities and tried to do the best she can without, putting her own life in jeopardy to get the lady out of the water. But imagine the horror that she has to live with for the rest of her life, seeing all of that up close and personal and not being it. Because at some point, in the follow-up news, you'll see that it was a conversation with the woman while she's in the water, and she said she comes about the water and she kind of like was trying to like fix her hair. So she thought that she was free from the alligator at that point. And the woman said to her, she said, well, swim to me and I'll give you the pole. And the lady said to her, I can't, the alligator still got me. And then within 30 seconds, the alligator had pulled that woman all the way under. That neighbor, God bless her soul, but she's going to be haunted for the rest of her life. But I also heard on the news that she actually took the dog. The dog survived, y'all. So the neighbor actually took the dog. So hopefully the dog is there. And because, for those of you who own animals, you do know that, like, my Rottweiler, for example, knows both neighbors. He can identify with them on both sides. Even if he's on the deck, if they have a visitor, like if one of them out there, he won't bark. But if it's a visitor, he will bark. So sometimes it's good that when something like that happened, to give your animal to your neighbor, because that's the outside of your family, normally the closest, people that they know, if you don't have family that's around them a lot. And sometimes that's important to a dog surviving the rest of their lives, because without their owners, and if you ever put a GoPro on your dog or cat or anything like that, watch how when you leave out for work, how they typically sit and wait until you come back, even to eat. They typically wait till you come back to eat, especially if you got a little lap dog that's used to being with you all the time. So let me see if anybody answered that question from Florida. Why y'all so comfortable walking along the water edges? And I'm not talking about the beach, I'm not saying that alligators can't end up there, but, that's rare that they will. But I'm talking about, the ponds, the lakes, those areas, that it's just not safe. And especially not walking small animals, because we know, the nature of it is that the alligator saw food. His intent wasn't to take that woman, but once he got her and once he feels that flesh, or in some cases, maybe he felt defensive. Maybe she was trying to keep him from the food, and that's how he took, the only way he knew to take her down. But it's just sad, So I would recommend no one does that when you visit Florida or if you live in Florida. I have a lot of friends who live in Florida, but most of them come from up here, so they know better. Except for Keyshawn. Keyshawn is in the Tampa area, I believe, still. And we actually call her Gator because she'll go along the water sides and not care and take pictures and all of that stuff. So it's pretty dope. Florida people don't care. I'm not going to lie. Once I lived there, I lost my fear of lakes, knowing gators are there. You get accustomed to living with them. Yeah, no. It's why, look, Elias, I love the beach, but I have to be able to see the sea. I have to be able to see 13, 15 feet down at least. I don't swim in the beaches here in Maryland because the water brown. Well, the water is not brown, the sand is, which makes the water appear brown, as you know, my daddy used to always say. Let's see. Before we get into our main topic, as far as the Disney thing, the child was a tourist from the UK, but everyone local or tourist has a false sense of safety at Disney. But part of it is Disney's fault for hiding things like the security. Yeah. Like I said, any resort that we would stay in the Keys, in Fort Myers, Captiva, Sanibel, even when I was in St. Pete's, like there were apartment communities that I was down there touring, and they actually had signs up as well, like around their waters to just remind you to be cautious of them. But you ain't got to tell me. I don't need a sign. I'm staying definitely leap distance away. That is for sure. Good morning, RC. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. All right, so this morning, Emilio. Good morning, Miguel. I'm gonna put my glasses on in a minute. Once Dre get in, I can put my glasses on because he can actually maneuver some of this. Good morning, Reptile Life. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, Tim. Good morning, Darlene. Holly said, I said it the other day, you wouldn't walk your dog that close to a fire. Why would you walk your dog by the water in Florida? Holly, I agree. And but the thing about it, she must have lived there but think about it, she lived there for a very long time. Probably, right? And it never happened. But the fact that it can, it's kind of like I'm not going into the woods without protection. You know what I'm saying? Because you never know. It could be just that day the crazy fool decides they're going to jump from behind a tree and try to take me. I need to be prepared. And I always say, like in a case like that, people always say about, you know, it's not that people like to carry a gun. You just imagine being able to carry a gun, protect yourself, and something happened, right? And you sitting there thinking, I should have and could have had that gun with me. That's the mindset of most people who carry. It's like you just want to carry it all the time to protect yourself all the time. Because I always say, that's what I tell my husband all the time. It's just that I don't ever want to be in that situation where I can protect myself or somebody else sitting there thinking like, damn, my gun at home. It gonna do me no good at that moment. So it could be that one. No, Nicole want to see the stingray in the sand. So if you, Justin, if you look at my personal Facebook page, you will see that I'm swimming with stingrays, but I can see them all the way down and I will pick them up. The funny thing is stingrays I'm not afraid of them at all. Like I will swim in a sandbar with them, but sharks, my husband, that's what he want to see, right? He wants the sharks. That's when I want to get the hell out the water. But he's the shark dude for real. And yes, we want to be able to see. And literally you can see Justin, like when, well, y'all know if you go to Caribbean, well, if some people don't do stingrays, but if you do like the water and you're not afraid of stingrays, you have to do a sandbar tour, like somewhere like Turks Caicos, Grand Cayman Islands, Dominican Republic has a really good sandbar tour. And get off in the middle of the ocean and watch the stingrays literally come up from the sand all the way down. So you can look down in the water and see the sand start to bubble and then the stingray just pop up. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff. See, here you'd be over here in Maryland in the Eastern Shore and a great white can be coming. You can't see it in the murky waters. I can't do that. I can't. Thomas. Not sure if I said good morning, Darlene, so I'm going to make sure I say it again. I told my daughter, mother, she bet not let my daughter walk by the bodies of water because they stay in South Florida. Yeah, it's just, especially not small kids. Or if you're going to do it, be alert. Like, you know, I get it. It's nature. Some people love nature, that much that even if it's a threat, like for me, I love being in the ocean, even though I don't like sharks. Anytime you go into an ocean, I don't care where you are, even though they tell you no sharks are here, whatever, you're in a body of water in the world. You don't know what shark went where. It's a risk, but I'm not going to stop going into the water because that's actually like my peaceful place. Just being in the water for hours. Let's see who. Bosa, good morning, Bosa. Vicky T in the house. Mizzy. Katie, good morning. Wiz, what? Good morning, Wiz. Somebody must be sick. Wiz, always working. It's most likely due to complacency. People walk by water and over time fear diminishes. Most people never are engaged by it. That's what I'm saying. I agree. I think that's what happens, but like for me, just that, like I said, it's like going into the woods. What are the odds of something happening when I go into a woods or something like that? You know, it might not ever happen, but I want to make sure that it never happens. Right, Holly? Well, you know, like I said, it's the whole thing is that a lot of things happen. And I just sometimes feel so bad. Like recently, they showed on the news the girl who was in the gym. And this is why you don't let people in through doors, guys, that's secured. The reason why you pay all this money to live in places that got secured features is so you can keep the people who ain't supposed to be there out. So anyway, the normal thing that people do, we used to see it all the time when I was in property management. The door is secured. They see somebody standing there, so they go over there, assuming that the person is a friendly person, and they let him in. And this girl let this guy in, and he immediately started to attack her. She was able to keep fighting him off, but and then down, she picked up a phone down and ran out through the door. But if she was not able to fight him off, if that man, because clearly he looks like he might not have been that strong, he wasn't that able to fight him off, she would have been in there. Nobody else would have known. Everybody else is locked out, technically, you know. So even if she dialed her 911 or whatever, they got to find ways to get in, and she would have been screwed. Now in Chicago, when that girl was being robbed, she was prepared, and she said to him, "Please don't make me shoot you." And the dude kept saying, "I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna get it," and she fired him up, you know. But the whole thing is that she was prepared. And if she wasn't, it would have went all bad for her that day because that guy was not going to stop. He was persistent. So, yeah, you got to always be ready. You all the militia. I tell people all the time. You can't wait on, especially now when police got the delayed response. You got to be, you're your first point of defense. I carry a taser to the bus stop, and I live in the county suburbs type area. Oh, I don't care. People say all the time. My daughter used to come to this house and say, leave our door unlocked, and would say, "Ain't nobody coming in here. It's too quiet around here. This is bougie people." You know what? We was raised where people left the hood to go to those bougie people to go steal, rob, and destroy. So, honey, do not leave my door unlocked. Like, no, that's not okay anywhere. Same thing with your cars. That's not okay anywhere. People who leave their kids in the car with the car running. How many times have a car been stolen with children in the back? Could you imagine how horrifying that is? To prevent that, you don't leave the kids in the car with the car running or unsecured in that case. But yeah, it's just crazy how what they say, a little ounce of protection is the cure. So just protect yourself. Hey, Benji. Good morning, Benji. All right, so I think we are. Didn't she, Holly? Look, Holly be watching this. Look, Holly, let me find out we soul sisters. Holly be watching the same stuff that I watch. Or Holly is a USCCA member and she gets the alerts and see the videos too. But I will tell you though, Holly, like watching those scenarios, it makes you like, like it makes you want to always be prepared. For a long time, I wouldn't carry guys without my gun on safety. Now, the importance of it, just that second, is so important. I don't carry it on safety anymore. I just always want to make sure that we are ready. And I encourage anybody out there who lives in a state that allows you to be ready. Take the opportunity before they try to take the right away. We have crazy meth addicts around here. I ain't risking my kids. Exactly. And that's the thing. most of your heavy, and this is a statistic, y'all. We always think that most of our drug users are in the ghettos. A lot of our drug dealers are, but a lot of our big time drug users are in the suburbs where they can afford the drug. Now the difference between the two is that the chances of you probably getting carjacked to get by somebody to get drugs is slimmer in the suburbs than it is in, probably in the hood, because their means and the struggles are a little different. The means of like taking care of your family is different. But is he in the? I was getting ready to say, look, I was about to. I'm like, is this fool in the chat? And
Sorry, I'm late.
Oh, look like you had a hair appointment.
No, not at this early.
You got curly ends.
I took my braids out.
Oh, excuse me. He says someone stole a car on my block with a baby in the back seat back in Jersey. At one point, Keys, it got really bad up here with that. Like about 10 years ago, it was like common, like people was almost doing it. But one lady, it was said she got dragged to her death, but she was not letting that car go with her babies in it, and she meant that. But again, we could prevent that by letting the car run. Someone comes up to mug you, just strip down to the banana hammock and try to hustle that videos of that working. So, that'll get you shot more in the hood. You know that.
And then you have to stay away from all schools.
But they brought the baby back. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, I will hope if you have a heart. Like, it was one scenario where the people actually left the baby in a car seat at a gas station. They still took the car, but thank God they didn't take the child. Because at the end of the day, that's all that's going to matter to somebody. Remember for I figured out. Oh, it's funny. Yeah, I'll tell you that those stories be enlightening. Stacked and racked. Look, and I'm sure you got all kinds of toys and triggers and things to attach to make it even more fun. All right. Good morning, Ray Blade. Good morning, tradesman. That's why I made my wife get her concealed carry, especially after the baby. She always carries when she's not with me. Yes, and they got some bad baby bags out there too, tradesmen. Could totally fool them. I'm going to get a bottle. Yes. That was my thing. So the funniest story, y'all, for me, and Dre knows this story. Some people was on my social media page. For the longest time, we would go to the gun range. I would only do headshots. So then, when I had to get licensed, I could not shoot headshots because that's all I shot for so long. And so the hardest part was me learning to shoot cinemas. And so now I try not to ever do headshots again. I mean, of course, I can still go, but it's the natural shot for me. But that's the thing. The other thing is that there's so many rules for us who conceal carry legally. The criminal don't follow these rules. We got the, they don't have no rules. They don't have no law. They not thinking about, okay, like in Maryland is a retreat first state. So you have to, do all you can to retreat before you shoot. I'm going to stick to the part that my life was in immediate, imminent danger. That is subjective. That is subjective. So I'm just saying. Good morning, Spicy. Good morning. All right. So, Dre, you want to start while I'm going through the chat? I actually hold on. Go ahead. You shoot. Our topic.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're just talking about Wildcaught versus Captive. I chose this topic just because it's been coming up a lot this week. I've been having a lot of people reach out to me about white-lipped pythons. That is probably one of the most imported snakes in the industry right now. And a lot of people still don't know how to tell the difference between an imported snake and a captive snake. So
A lot of people still know the difference between a white-lipped python and a golden child. But go ahead.
I mean, that's a fact. It's unfortunate, but that's a fact. Dang, Nicole, like
that cracks me up every single time.
Yo. I mean, that's true. Some people don't know the difference between a retick and a berm, so you got a point. But so I'm sure I don't know, but I'm sure a lot of people have heard about the little sting that they did a couple weeks ago in Florida. Was it in Florida? Where they arrested like 5 people for illegally importing animals, illegally selling venomous animals.
Yes, I saw that on somebody posted on Instagram with another story. I don't know if you saw about they was talking about the whole gator pool thing, but go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, Nicole is on one for sure.
I woke up early this morning. This is my whole ADHD is in.
I did too, but some woke up better than others. But so basically, I mean, I know majority of people in here have ball pythons, so y'all don't really got to worry about Wildcaught. But to my people that's getting into other snakes, you just got to be mindful of what you're getting, because, like I said, there's certain snakes where they're not really being bred on a consistent basis, and white-lipped pythons is one of them. Green tree pythons can go either way. I know some people who do with the imports and some people that don't, but I feel like when you're dealing with the imports with the green tree pythons, got to make sure you take it to the vet and run those tests, get it tested for NIDO, get it tested for everything. Otherwise, you're gonna have a sick snake and more than likely dead. Green tree pythons don't come in cheap.
So I think a lot of problems starts at purchase, right? People not understanding the difference of captive bred, captive born, and wild caught, and then long-term captive. Like they don't in the farm. Like I would tell you, like the only way I even understood or learned about farm bred versus wild caught type of thing was when I was looking for the green tree. Remember, I told you that's probably when we probably started talking the most. Is when I started looking for the green tree, because the spectrum was so crazy, y'all. It was from I've seen some 250 to damn near 22,500, and I'm serious, right? So I called Dre. We wasn't as close as we are now, and my question was, please tell me what the hell is the difference between a 250 and a 22,500.
Yeah, when it comes to green trees, you literally get what you pay for, literally. But there's so many split off. So you got US CBB, which is United States Captive Born and Bred. You got CBB, which is Captive Born and Bred. However, it may not have been bred in the United States. You got LTC, which is long-term captive, import, Wildcaught, and then you got farm raised, which honestly,
I was prepared, Dre, as you can see, because I knew where you was going to go. Check your girl out. Check your girl out, right? So the definition of captive bred and born, to counteract misunderstandings of captive bred or captive born, some breeders specify their animals are CBB. These animals are usually the most expensive, but also the most accustomed to people. And of course, this article is much longer. I just took a snapshot. They are more accustomed to people. They are less likely to have any born parasites. You are almost guaranteed that the health of the animal, if the health of the parents was okay, other than birth defects or anything like that. And you typically don't have to deworm these animals, because they are, my mother, my father were born in the United States of this enclosure.
United States of this.
The United States of this enclosure.
Well, with CBB, the parents don't necessarily have to be captive. They were Wildcaught, but the babies were
bred and born. It means that the two animals had to be captive, right? But one of the parents, for example, is what you're saying, could have been imported at some point, because that's the difference where they try to break the difference down between CBB and CB, captive bred and captive bred born. So CB CB, just CB. I don't know if I had that one, but I think I do have that one somewhere. Hold on. Let's see. Let's see. Hold on. Let's see. I might. Maybe I don't, but it's probably under here too. Don't worry about it, y'all. But CB is to simply mean that captive bred. That means everything and everybody was captive bred.
Go back to that other one that said captive farmed.
Up right here. Okay. This means that the parents were wild but kept in a pen so offspring could be collected and sold. So I'm gonna stop right here because, and Dre, remember this, when I bought my green tree python, Bob Clark advertised that as farm bred animal. But when I asked the question, was it wild caught? He said no. Right? So no, it's not wild caught, but he could still, if the animal was younger, I bought him older on purpose. But let's say if he was a newborn, he could still be susceptible to all the diseases and parasites or anything that his wild caught parents had if they were not long-term captive bred who was dewormed and vetted and all of that.
And don't be fooled by the term captive farm. We usually just call them farm raised. It's literally the same thing. And to me, farm raised is literally a slight step up from wild caught.
Yep.
They're just bred in controlled environments, but they still they're not in the best of environments. However, it's literally just a step up. So these animals, I would still take to the vet because a lot of animals are farm raised. Like a lot of animals that are cheap, and it probably should be more expensive than it is. Like if you come across a southern white lip and like, oh, it's farm raised, and the one thing I don't like about white lips, it doesn't matter what the health of that animal is, somebody is they're waxing. They want $2,000 to $3,000 for it, whether it's captive, whether it's wild caught, whatever the case may be. But yeah, captive farm, or is it captive farm raised? Yeah, don't be fooled by that. It's literally just farm raised.
Well, but I bring that up and I share that story because sometimes we look to these big breeders to be honest. And if I did not have the conversation with Dre and it was another breeder that I had talked to at that time, because the breeder had like a green tree who was like 7,500. But they didn't have anything available until the next clutch of eggs. Like it was like literally he was pre-selling the eggs type of thing. But he was honest, I don't know what's going to come out, whatever. He said, but these typically go really, really fast. He said, but if you want something you can get now, he did say that in his opinion, that you're probably best getting farm bred from this particular vendor. However, the vendor this person knew all of this, right? But the vendor wasn't upfront about that. If I didn't drill into the whole farm bred and what did that mean type of thing, what he tried to stick with is that it wasn't wild caught. That was the advertisement was that it wasn't wild caught. And it wasn't. You know what I'm saying? But the parents being wild caught and giving birth. So let's say a lot of times, and you guys know this, a lot of times people used to do it legally, but now they still do it illegally, smuggle pregnant wild caught animals over here. So you could say that it was farm bred because you can't say that it was farm bred because the wild caught animals came over here and gave birth. They were bred over or in the country they came from. Just because their babies hatched on the farm doesn't make them farm bred. So really drill into those questions when you're buying from certain breeders, especially if it's a breeder who are known for imports.
Yeah, it's really a lot of technicalities. It's really all it is. It's a lot of technicalities, and these rules were put in place by the people before us who did things a certain way. But regardless, this is why quarantine is important. Quarantining your animals is important.
Well, and then even in that case, with anything I would suggest that is farm bred or wild caught, because I just didn't trust the whole situation. The green tree stayed in another room for a whole year. He didn't come in this room where he is now, and Dre knows this, probably over a year. We ordered the enclosure, probably over a year. And that for me, And of course, he looked healthy. Wasn't nothing wrong with him. We took him to the vet and all of that. But you don't know what could, like, what I don't know, when you don't have an animal in your hand, right? And you already kind of side-eyeing the situation, you can't trust anything that you were told before that. So you need to get that solidified and certified through a vet to be comfortable, especially if you have other animals in your home. Maybe it's not necessary if you only have, one gecko or something like that, and then you're bringing in a green tree. But when you have other reptiles like pythons and stuff that, shares the air, because there are some things that's airborne that comes from other countries that for animals here, certain viruses they may get here won't take them out. And then there's certain viruses that can come from another country, just like different strains of COVID who can take out a whole collection without notice. So
I mean, and that's on top of the other things we already have to worry about, like mites, respiratory, nido, IBD, just think those are basic things we have to watch out for. So when you add an animal to your collection, even if it's captive, when you add any type of new blood to your collection and you don't know where it came from, again, even if it was captive, I quarantine, period, at least 60 days.
Yeah. I would say I'm probably, and I'm an honest person, like I probably quarantine 98% of my animals, but I can tell you that I have probably, and when I mean quarantine is in a separate room. I do have a quarantine rat that's in the same room with some of my younger breeder ball pythons. Now nothing goes into my collection on the other side without a full quarantine. But there's sometimes, I'll be honest, like I got snakes from GP Snakes that went into a quarantine rack, did not go into a quarantine room. But I think too, that comes from being experienced and what to look for too, you know what I'm saying? But there's certain things that I'm just not going to do. I can't put, like, I wouldn't have put those snakes in the rack with my already established breeders, that I know are clear of health and stuff like that, because you don't know what, you just don't know. So to Dre's point, you want to do it 100%. I'm just being honest that I can tell you that I have 1, 2, probably 3 snakes that did not go into a separate quarantine room. It went into a separate quarantine rack. And then we talked about that before, different levels of quarantine. Everybody have different quarantine. What quarantine is to different people, different things. What Dre is talking about is a true quarantine. When you're putting the animal separate from everything and you're in, another room, maybe something where there's a wall and a barrier. Even if it's like even if it's the same space, but maybe it's a barrier. That's what Dre's talking about, sharing different dimensions pretty much for that space.
Yep. Well, you got everybody riled up with these headshots, man.
Oh no! I mean, look, I'm good now. I'm good at cinemas. It was just the way that, like I said, before you knew the law, you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of, when you getting licensed, like I think somebody was saying earlier, it's a lot of law that go into that you have to know for different states. Like, I mean, I just like what I can do in Maryland. Like I was talking about USCA, like we always look, what do we have to do if we go into this state? If we're driving this way, what states are we driving through? Like we need to know all of that stuff too. So it's like, I think for me it was, and don't get me wrong, if you come in my house, that's probably still going to be the shot. I'm gonna be honest. But like out there, I have mastered the cinemas.
I mean, at the end of the day, you got to do what you got to do.
Because it changes. Like in Maryland, we can justify it. When someone crosses your threshold, their intent, and they see that you got cars and everything out there, they must be coming to war. Like who enters a house knowing people there and not going to? Yeah.
They made us a stand ground. They made us a stand ground state. You needed to go take a nap. A nap in a pee. A long one.
It's that morning energy. Working out in the morning, I'm telling you, be ADHD. It's crazy how they catch people with CBD. Yeah, like it's like Dre said, the whole word game. Candy.
Double trouble.
Looking like a quarter lick.
What is wrong with you today?
That's my girl.
But there's also this is why, like, if I go to buy something, I'm gonna ask for updated photos. I'm not about to take the stock photo that you have on whatever you got it. I want to see updated photos, and if you can't provide that for me, then I know that's not the animal for me. Because people will advertise as, you know, USCBB, or they'll advertise everything but wild caught, and it turns out it is wild caught. And it's like, well, if you can't provide me with, you know, updated pictures, then we ain't got nothing to talk about.
And that same person that I spoke of, he did that. Remember, I was like, this is not, the age in the picture did not match up. Like, it was just so much. So much. Thank God. Like I said, he's well, and I can also say domesticated now. You see me here?
Yeah, I've seen your post.
Y'all saw me. Hey, dear baby.
It is too early. I was talking trash. I was like, oh, she thinks she got it like that now.
Dre, it's a little girl. I'm telling these kids be trying to show me out. I get real competitive. Shout out to Socrates' daughter.
Oh, she showed you up, huh?
Yeah, when I stopped, like, oh, see, there you go. These kids again trying to outdo me. Let me step it up. Come on, DMX. You can't let the kid be out here.
I've been trying to tell you, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, goodness. I mean, you know, we got a long way from holding him in my hand to him going up in my hair and sitting on the top of my head, and he did not strike once.
That's good.
That baby. I can call him sweet stuff now, Elias. All right, so Gray, we missing one. So it was the L. Hold on.
Long-term captive.
Yeah, the long-term captive bred. So drilling on that, because I think that's another one where they try to be slick with.
Yeah, a long-term captive is usually a wild-caught animal, but it's been in captivity for a while, so it's established. But that doesn't always. It's not always what it seems. So even if they find an older animal in the wild and then they get it, they'll label that long-term captive, although they probably only had it for like 2 weeks or so. So you gotta be careful with that. Just because it's bigger in size don't mean it's healthy. So I'm in a couple white-lipped python groups, and somebody just got a new white-lipped python. And I know I keep talking about white-lipped pythons, but that's like the best example that I have. It's like the best example that I have.
Worst experience with,
because most other snakes are established. So if you're buying snakes, let's say you get in ball pythons, and you somehow decide to buy a wild caught ball python with all of these, you know, morphs and genetics and stuff out here, that's your fault. But this guy had just got a white-lipped python, and he had his mouth open, and it was just like a bunch of like fuzzy whiteness on the top of the mouth. It was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. But it was bacterial infection, it was fungal, and mouth rot. So more than likely, probably isn't gonna make it. Because one thing about white lips, once they start puffing that throat up, done deal.
Yeah, I think too, on this topic, there are some advantages of importing animals, and especially in the ball python breeding world, right? That's the whole story of some of these amazing people who started just 3 years ago, and they got these kick animals in their collection. That's the story. They went across, had somebody go across seas, go to Africa, get them something out the wild, take that risk, bring it over here, go through the quarantine process, making sure it's healthy and all of that. The disadvantage again to that is even with ball pythons. Like, typically, if you ever want to see a ball python full of mites or parasites, it's getting one from out the wild. Now, you have some very skilled people who have been doing that pretty, many years, or who wouldn't have no concern. You take a Tom Crutchfield or Kevin McCarley, for example, they could probably, do it on a regular and be successful because of their education in treating those type of animals and stuff like that before they start to breed them. But your kick-ass genetics come from genetics that's not being produced right here over and over in the United States. New genes coming in is what creates some of these new morphs that we're working with today. So I think that for me, and I'll tell anybody, I prefer captive bred for so many reasons. It's not just the health part, just so many reasons. Like when people I get so passionate about, the reticulated python, the whole mainland or super dwarf. I don't care if it's a mainland or super dwarf. If you bring that in wild caught, it's going to have the same risk that it's going to have. If you have a captive bred mainland, it's not going to be a fucking 25-foot snake if it's fed properly. It's just not, y'all. It's not. Captive bred animals for 15, 20 years are barely pushing 15, 16 feet. Barely. You might have some rare exceptions to that, or people who might have had their animals for, let's say, 25, 30 years, some original F1s, and that's happening. But for the most part, if you are appropriately feeding a captive bred animal, they're not going to be what you see in the wild. Hell, sometimes the animals in the wild is not what you see in the wild. Like we see those rare occasions where anaconda is massive,
right?
But most of the time that's not what you're going to see in the wild. You're going to see a nice size anaconda because it's a big snake, but you're not going to see these overly massive heads on them. I mean, even on Burmese pythons, like I see some of these Burmese pythons are not supposed to look like this, y'all. I'm sorry, they're not. Dre, you know what I'm talking about. That is the worst. It actually changes what the snake looks like. It makes the bird look like an anaconda.
Yeah, when I got that, yeah.
When they got that whole, it's just not
too much
like that.
Overfed.
Yeah, the snake ain't gonna live. The snake ain't gonna live long enough to get 20 feet anyway because you overfeed it. It's not.
Man, listen.
So I'm caught up again. So Darlene, let's see. KT said, why do people say not to handle green tree python and tree boas? So they have prehensile tails. So two, they are really snakes who don't want to be fucked with. They just want to sit here on this perch, watch the shit that's going on, let the bird fly by, let my food fly by and eat. They really don't care for handling. And for me, and I'm saying that as a person who believes there are snakes that when I walk in this room, wants to be handled. They knock on the glass damn near, take me out, handle me. But I will say that is one who probably don't care to be handled at all. But you have a big threat to injuring them if you don't handle them appropriately. Like seriously, their tails can take the injury to their tails can kill them.
Yeah, most people think it's because they have a higher sense to bite, which can be true, but also
that too. But that's not the reason.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I was about to get into. But I think also that's going to tell the difference between if you have captive or wild caught or imported, because most captive arboreal snakes are going to be pretty chill. Venus is very laid back, very chill, but I still don't. I've handled him, but I don't handle him, like crazy. But if I do want to take him out, removable perches is the way to go. That way, you can still take him out, do what you need to do, and you're not necessarily disturbing him. Now, when I take his perch out, he himself will climb onto my hand, but I never pull him off. Because like Nicole said, the tail that they use for luring is very sensitive. So it's important that you can't, it's not like a boa, where a boa, wraps their tail around something and you can untangle it and try to pull them off. Green tree pythons and emerald tree boas, you can't do that.
And if you ever like seeing like them move off their tail, you can see how delicate their tail is when you see it move off something, like when they're doing it themselves. Like, so that's the reason for me. Other than the fact, like I said, I handle him, and I've always, even before he was like this, I always handled him because I knew I had to. I never wanted him to be like Dre said, you got to go in there and clean. So, you don't want it to be like him stressed out every time you go in there. So, but I would tell you, y'all talk about these other animals. That one is the longest it took me to actually get a snake to where he is right now. That dude was not always like that. I have never felt his teeth, no, but I did a lot of ducking him earlier in the stages.
Listen, green tree python teeth is nuts. Woo! So
yes.
Last week, or a couple weeks ago, I fed Venus, and he missed the first time, and he got a piece of mulch. So I had to literally pull him out and stick some tongs in his mouth to get it out. And when I tell you he flexed them teeth, I was like, oh shit. And it's crazy because my emerald tree boa, they have even bigger teeth. So it's just like you don't want to get bit by either of those things because them teeth. It's not like I will take a boa bite, a python bite.
I tell you that all the time, the reed-tick bite. I say that all the time. I would rather take the reed-tick bite. I'm not taking this.
Listen, I will take a reed-tick bite. But them teeth that they have and they curve back and they have fang.
And the thing is that when you see a picture, you don't see the whole tooth, y'all. So normally when you see that on a picture, the mouth being open, if you look, the tooth is like almost like if you pull back the glands, the rest of the tooth is there. So people think that's just the tooth, that little part that you see. No, there's a whole nother 2 inches up in the gums in that little head. And the impact of those bites is just insane. So yes, you're not seeing the whole tooth.
No,
that's a part of it. If you push that gum, the gums, or whatever you want to call it up, it's more teeth under there.
Here's a better picture of it. Green tree python. Look at that.
The only animal I always say to Dre, the only animal who ever punks me is a green tree python named DMX. Okay, and people always say you got them big old reed-ticks. Trust me, it ain't nothing compared.
It's not. It's not. It ain't the ones you gotta worry about.
Reed-ticks ain't choosing war. They just don't. If you take good care of them, they're not choosing war. He used to choose war every day. Dare you? I want you to. And then how he'll be asleep on the perch and you think that you're going to, he's asleep. So normally when they get alert, a green tree python lift his head up real fast. Like like it's quick. Like it's, like.
Venus almost got me the other day.
It's dancing, but he's better now. Now I can go in, I can talk to him, and he'll lift his head up, and I can just reach in and pull him out, and then just let him come out on my shoulder, and he's better.
That's emerald tree boa teeth right there. They just on a whole.
That's the one y'all always trying to get Dre to go in and just take out on camera.
And Nicole got me fucked up in every way.
Be like, Dre, no, without the hook, without the pole.
You got me fucked up in every way because it's not gonna happen. I held him that one time on camera. That was the last time.
You're the snake guard. I want you to go and pick him up. That's when I'm impressed. I ain't impressed by none of that other stuff. You can pick up and the caiman. The caiman is impressive.
I pick up the caiman. I pick up the caiman more than I pick up that emerald tree boa.
But at least you can kind of anchor the caiman a certain way.
I have to.
They can turn it back around this way, and the way they can move their bodies is different from most pythons. And that's the biggest thing, like we say, compared to a reed-tick. A reed-tick can't move their body like this one can. This one moves more like I say a venomous snake, like a bushmaster type.
They're real slow and precise.
Yeah, like they can do things like kind of tough to roll.
When they start staring and they so still with their head wobbling, I was like, oh, they about to tear something up.
And look, I used to be like, that's nice to be like.
See, look, exactly, and they just be coming at you. You like, come on now.
And they're longer, y'all, than they look. The green tree python is way longer than it looks.
I don't trust my emerald because the last time I took my emerald out, coiled around my hand, so I couldn't do nothing. And when I tell you, he turned his head, just looked at me and stared. I was like, oh. So everywhere I turned my hand, he just moved his head in the same way as my face. I was like, listen, bro, I don't know what your problem is, but you're gonna have to go back in your cage. So yeah, I don't mess with him too much. But he getting bigger too.
Now I will say again, this carpet is still in my heart day by day. It would never take the retake place, but I will tell you, it's right next to it.
It's something different. Like they're similar. You get the best of both worlds because they're similar to green trees, but they're gonna be way more active.
I'm gonna say no. She ain't nothing like he was ever.
I'm saying as far as their habits because they're similar.
Oh yeah, the things they do.
Saying, so they'll utilize the whole cage. You know what I'm saying? Versus the green tree kind of just sits there. But I dope. I'm still working with Khalifa. He hasn't gotten any worse, but still not really any better. So we got a vet appointment soon.
So
But
what
yeah.
is it? What do you think is? What do you think it is?
So it's not respiratory.
Okay.
Um,
Well, that's
he's
always
done. He's done all his medication. But that's the scary part because she said it could also be IBD, which there's no cure for it. So
right. But
um,
how long have you had Khalifa?
like 4 years. He was a Craigslist find though as a baby.
Oh,
So I
okay.
got him. I went to go buy a cage for Luther, the boa. And I got there, and the guy was like, "There's a snake in there," and he told me basically like, "Well, if you take the cage, you can keep the snake." Khalifa was probably like a foot and a half at that point. He was still pretty small, and then he's been doing great. So I don't know. None of my other snakes are, and he's in quarantine. He's been in quarantine since it's been over, going on, coming up. It's like been like 2 months and 2 weeks now. So 2.5 weeks, 2.5 months. So yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. It's sad because I was literally trying to get him a female, which I probably still get anyway because if something happens to him, I know I want a carpet, but yeah, we'll see, we'll see, we'll see.
Morning, Keisha.
I've been slacking on the good mornings. I've been ignoring people. I'm sorry, y'all. Good morning, everybody.
We got the wonderful ladies from the whole back rack. Jessica
Hold back rack.
or
Good
Gina.
morning, good morning.
Whole back rack. Yes. One of my favorite YouTube channels. Bad women doing great things, and they're smart. I learned so much. And funny.
Like that
Absolutely.
call.
Absolutely funny. Wait, wasn't that your green tree python wrapped around your shoulders? Yes, that's what I'm saying. Go try and find a video though, KT, from a year ago with that green tree wrapped around my shoulder.
No,
Go
no,
on
don't.
YouTube and try to find a video.
You don't got to go find a
Without
video.
one glove on like Michael Jackson.
You don't got to go find a video. I got a picture right here on my phone. Because so Nicole don't want to tell y'all. Like a year and a half ago, we had a bet. We were supposed to go live, and she was gonna take out her green tree, and I was gonna take out my emerald. I recorded a YouTube video, and I took out my emerald, but it never happened. So now she's gonna be like, "We can
No,
do it,
I
Jay.
did.
We
I
can do
took
it, Jay."
Brand Mike from her collectors. There's a video with me taking him out. You just
We
don't
was
see a
supposed to.
video with him crawling on
We
me.
were supposed to go live. We were supposed to go live.
Oh, yeah, we didn't do the live one. Yeah, we
Yeah,
did.
we
Oh, we
didn't do
can
the
do it
live.
now.
She was. I bet she was talking mad cash money, and I was just like, okay.
We can go live now.
Like, I'm gonna pull one of the retics out and paint him green. Like, here it is.
No, he was still.
Oh, by the way, Nicole, this cow retic is she growing on me. She growing on me for sure. For sure. She got like just the right amount of spice, and I'm just like, she got her spots coming in. I'm just like, ooh, I can't wait.
Yep. Candy said her carpet is her absolute favorite. Candy got a big carpet too.
Yeah, somebody said something about wanting a semi-arboreal. Darlene, look into a carpet, but not a jungle. Look into like maybe like a coastal. They're a bigger species, so they're semi-arboreal. They get around that 8 to 10 foot range. If you get a female though, she's gonna be a big girl. It's gonna be like having a super dwarf retic, honestly, because they still get pretty big, but they're very active snakes.
You see, Jessica said test him. I'm sure it's Jessica now.
Test me on what?
Test him on the snake for IBD.
Oh yeah. Well, that's why I got to go back to the vet because they didn't want to do it first because they thought it was respiratory. So I'm gonna go back and get the labs and stuff done. But the only sucky thing is like, if it does come out to be that, there's nothing I can do about it but make him comfortable. So.
All right. So I'm going to go down a slippery, sensitive subject. I got a question, and actually, I hope Jessica is still in the chat. So, if he does have it, okay, why wouldn't you just euthanize him? And I know emotionally, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's definitely a thought. I'm not just going, just like let it just, because of my own selfish feelings. That would be an option. I just want to confirm everything before I make that decision.
Okay.
So,
I mean, I know it would be hard. I know. I mean, I know that's a why, but I'm wondering, like just for educational purposes, have anybody had that situation? What did you do with your animal? I can tell you that because I have so many other animals to risk, I would definitely have to have it. I would have it properly euthanized. But I couldn't run that risk mentally for myself. But what do
And even then,
dealt with that? What have you done?
even then, keeping that around, knowing that I have other snakes wouldn't be smart. So, yeah, I would have to make that tough decision. But once I confirm everything and we see what's what, because he did take he ate for me for the first time in like 2 months. He hasn't lost any weight, which is good. So he ate for me for the first time in like 2 months. So I was like, okay, cool, that's great. But we'll see how it goes. I'll keep everybody posted for sure. Because he's definitely a favorite snake of mine, but a favorite on my my social medias and everything as well. So.
Yeah. Yes, I hope he's okay. That's always the risk, right, guys? Having all of these animals, like something happened. Like you guys know what almost happened to Larry, and I just can remember just for those few, minutes, just like feeling like just so horrible. You feel like you did something wrong, and I just and I still believe Jesus brought him back, y'all. I don't care what nobody say. He was gone. He was gone.
You got to change his name to Lazarus.
See, I can't because Larry is my
Larry Lazarus Tisdale.
Yeah, well, I can give him the middle name because Larry was named after my uncle who died, so he has my uncle's name. Yeah, like seriously, like
when you said Jesus brought it back, I'm like, he rose from the okay.
Yes, he was gone. Like that's thank you, God. Every time I look at him now, I go in there and feed him or something. It's like now, and I think he know, like he'd be like, "Hey, I'm over here. I'm just chilling today, whatever." I'm just so happy you're here. So happy because I'm telling you, that's the worst feeling in the world. Active is important too. I thought it'd be a super dwarf or a dwarf retic. I love those. Going to have to save some dough for sure. I don't know. I just think I'll never be a fan of a little retic.
I mean, I wouldn't expect.
Let's say that.
I wouldn't expect anything less from you.
That's the whole point of having it. I just dropped my kids off, and now I'm headed to take my daughter's elderly Beardy to the vet. Oh. So Candy, that's why Candy is not. She stopped breeding the Beardies, but she still has them. Got you.
That girl got more animals than me.
Candy likes to save them too. Of course you would, both.
I think it's a good name.
Of course, the reptile Jesus would love that name. What would Bosa do?
I'm weak.
Larry is amazing, Darlene. Amazing. It's crazy. He's doing wonderful. Thank you for asking. All right, guys. So I think we are over our hour in. Yep, just about. So this has been a great episode. Thank you so much for everybody who has joined us. Just keep in mind, let's see if we can do it again. Knowing the difference when you're purchasing an animal between captive bred, Wildcaught, and
long-term captive
bred, and making sure that you have the vendor to dissect the difference. I'm going to say, because I don't bash anyone, I just speak facts. If you're buying anything from Bob Clark, that you definitely want to have conversations directly with him, and not the managers and stuff like that who is told to just tell you certain things. You can request to have a conversation directly with him, or don't buy the animal, because you want to have somebody that you can hold accountable if something is misinterpreted. And that way, I know he emails a lot, so if you if you send him a message, he'll reply via email, then you have something in writing. Because a lot of y'all I've seen could have experienced, I could have experienced some of the same things that some of y'all had experienced later down the line if I did not do my due diligence with him. So that's just, again, it's not bashing anyone. I'm just speaking facts to the fact that that was my experience personally. And you have the right to drill into breaking it down. So what does that mean? Does that mean that the parents, where was the parents born? Who bred the parents? You have the right to ask all those questions before spending your money. I don't care if it's $250 or if it's $2,050, $500 or $25,000. You have the right to ask all the questions that you need to know before bringing an animal in your collection in your home. So with that being said, peace, everybody. Have a happy Monday.
Have a happy Monday, everybody.
Enjoy
Stay out of trouble.
day. Stay out of trouble. Stay protected. If you live in Florida, don't walk along the edges of the waters, or in Texas or anywhere like that. So also, Jessica said also test everything from Bob Clark. So again, these are facts. Nothing, bashing anyone. Just it's our duties as podcasters, I think, to just like when you're speaking of facts and honesty from your true personal experience to put it out there, and just the way to protect yourself. No one is saying not to buy, just protect yourself. So with that being said, everyone have an amazing day, an amazing week, and we will be seeing you next Wednesday at 8:00 p.m. For balls and things. See you then.
Later, everybody.
You do what?